Have you ever wondered what it means to dedicate your entire life to truth, even when the cost is death itself? To walk the streets of your city barefoot and poor, but armed with nothing more than questions that cut sharper than swords. This was the path of Socrates, the strange, mysterious man who lived in Athens 24 centuries ago, and whose life still echoes like thunder through the history of philosophy. His story is not only the tale of a man, but the birth of a way of thinking, a way of living, that shaped the entire course of Western thought. Socrates was born around 470 BCE in Athens, a city on the rise. His father was a stonemason, his mother a midwife. Perhaps this origin already carried a symbolic weight. From his father he inherited the craft of shaping stones, from his mother the art of bringing new life into the world. And indeed, all his life, Socrates claimed to be a midwife of the soul, helping others give birth to wisdom through conversation. We imagine him not as a powerful general or wealthy aristocrat, but as a humble man of simple habits. He wore the same rough cloak summer and winter, walked barefoot through the dusty streets, ate little, drank water or a cup of wine without excess, and never cared for wealth or luxury. While Athens boasted temples of marble, theatres filled with poets, and assemblies of citizens deciding the fate of the world, Socrates wandered among them, speaking in the agora, the public square, with anyone who would stop to listen, or to argue. He served as a soldier in his youth, fighting bravely in battles at Potidaea, Delium and Amphipolis. Plato would later write of his courage, telling how Socrates saved the life of Alcibiades, carrying him wounded from the field. Yet unlike other soldiers, he sought no honours, no trophies, no glory. His battlefield was not only of spears and shields, but of words and ideas. He believed the true fight was not against foreign enemies, but against ignorance, within oneself and within society. What made Socrates so unsettling was not that he claimed to know, but that he claimed not to know. "I know that I know nothing," he famously said, but this ignorance was not despair, it was the beginning of wisdom. He asked questions that exposed the false confidence of others. Politicians, poets, craftsmen, each thought himself wise. Yet when Socrates questioned them, gently but relentlessly, he revealed contradictions in their thinking, holes in their logic. His method, later called the Socratic Method, was like stripping away layers of illusion until only the raw truth, or the painful absence of it, remained. Imagine being stopped in the marketplace by this shabby, barefoot man who asks, "What is courage? What is justice? What is beauty? What is the good life?" At first you answer easily, but then with each question you stumble, realizing you do not know as much as you thought. Some walked away angry, others humiliated, but some, like Plato, found in this questioning a path to philosophy itself. Socrates' life unfolded during a turbulent time. Athens was at its height, a democracy, a cultural beacon, but also embroiled in wars and political instability. The Peloponnesian War with Sparta drained the city, brought famine and plague, and shook the confidence of its people. In this fragile atmosphere, a man who questioned everything, who respected no authority but reason itself, could not help but seem dangerous. Socrates never wrote a single book. Everything we know comes from his students, especially Plato and Xenophon, and even from comic poets like Aristophanes, who mocked him in plays such as The Clouds, portraying him as a sophist, a corrupter of youth, a man with his head in the clouds while ignoring the real world. But Socrates was no sophist. He refused payment for his teaching, unlike the professional rhetoricians of his time. He sought not to persuade but to awaken, not to fill the mind with facts, but to kindle the fire of self-examination. And yet his circle of followers did include controversial figures. Alcibiades, the brilliant but reckless general, and Critias, one of the 30 tyrants who briefly ruled Athens with cruelty, were both close to Socrates at some point. His enemies pointed to these connections as proof that his influence was corrupting the youth, turning them against traditional values and the city itself. Eventually, in 399 BCE, when Socrates was about 70 years old, he was brought to trial. The charges were grave: impiety, failing to acknowledge the gods of Athens, and corrupting the youth. Behind these charges, however, lay something deeper: fear. Athens, scarred by war, shaken by tyranny, was looking for scapegoats, for someone to blame for its decline. And here was this old man who made the powerful look foolish, who taught young men to question authority, who spoke of a mysterious inner voice, his daimonion, that guided him. Plato's Apology gives us the words Socrates spoke in his defense. Standing before the jury of 500 citizens, he did not plead for mercy. Instead, he challenged them. He explained that he was like a gadfly, sent by the gods to sting the great horse of Athens, to keep it awake and alive. To silence him, he warned, would be to harm the city more than himself. He said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." With those words, he declared that philosophy was not a luxury, but a necessity, a duty of every human being. The jury found him guilty. By a narrow margin, they sentenced him to death. According to Athenian custom, he was given the chance to propose an alternative punishment. Instead of pleading for exile or a fine, he suggested, half ironically, that he deserved free meals for life, like an Olympic victor, for the service he had given the city. His irony did not help him. The sentence of death was confirmed. In prison, his friends tried to persuade him to escape. They had the means, they had the plan, but Socrates refused. To flee would mean betraying his own principles. He had always taught that one must obey the laws of the city, even if they are unjust, for to break them would harm the city more. His death, he believed, was part of a greater order, and he would meet it calmly. Plato's dialogue Phaedo describes the final day. Socrates spent it in conversation, discussing the immortality of the soul with his friends. No despair, no rage, only reasoned thought and quiet acceptance. When the time came, he drank the cup of hemlock, the poison prepared for his execution. He walked until his legs grew heavy, lay down, and as the poison climbed through his body, he spoke his last words. "Crito, we owe a cock to Asclepius, pay it and do not neglect it." A strange, enigmatic farewell. Asclepius was the god of healing. Perhaps Socrates meant that death itself was a kind of cure, a liberation from the sickness of life. Perhaps he meant something else. The mystery remains. And so he died, not as a martyr of faith, but as a martyr of reason. His death shocked Athens, but his ideas only grew stronger. Plato carried them into dialogues that became the foundation of Western philosophy. Xenophon recorded his sayings. Centuries later, Stoics, Christians, Enlightenment thinkers, all would claim him as their own. He was, as Cicero called him, the father of philosophy. But beyond the myths and legends, Socrates remains a challenge to us. His life asks, are we living examined lives? Do we dare to question not only society but ourselves? Are we willing to follow truth even when it costs us comfort, status, even life itself? Socrates lived simply, spoke humbly, and died bravely. Yet his legacy towers over kings, generals, and conquerors. He showed that the greatest power lies not in wealth or armies but in the courage to ask, what is the good life? And to live according to the answer, no matter the price. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support motivates me to create more thought-provoking content on philosophy.